This is To Wit, a podcast for women in tech doing life. I'm Christy Guzman.
And I'm Melinda Smith. Hi. How are you?
I am lovely.
You want to know something funny?
No.
If we listen to the way that we introed in the first 3 episodes or 5 episodes as opposed to now, we know what the intro music sounds like. So we pause for it. And it's not there yet. I love it.
Okay. I mean, after playing Stuart's game, we're super good at intro music.
Yeah.
Now. Although, I will say, I don't remember if I talked about this last week or not, but I've started to listen to my podcasts on 1.5 times. And I do
that.
Digging it. And it's interesting because the music gets faster too. And you're so used to and then it's just speed it up. Boop, 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 boop. So it's interesting. But I think 2 times gets a little too chipmunky. But 1.5 times just makes it more like a faster cadence if people weren't pausing and thinking and talking at a normal human pace. You don't notice that it's slow until you do it at 1.5 times. But
you can do it on a half-time too, which kills me.
Hello. No. I ain't got time. The whole point is I ain't got time for that.
No, I ain't got time for that. We have an amazing guest and a chunk of that, so I don't want to take any time away from our amazing guest. But first and foremost, let's get to know one another.
Oh, what do you got?
How do you, my dear friend, partner in crime, relieve or manage your stress?
Well, I'm never stressed. So, JK.
Liar!
I like to read books and be by myself. I think is kind of my... What's that?
Recharge. Isn't that kind of an indication of a introvert, needing to recharge alone?
Yeah, I think just a mindless thing, or even TV, I guess, just mindless movie you've seen, comfort, probably comfort food too, if I'm really being honest. Yeah, I don't have I always want to do nicer things for myself. I want to get a monthly massage. Doesn't that sound first world problemsy and nice? But then I don't pony up the money for it,
Then you gotta plan it, and you gotta do it, and you gotta go, and you have to plan to not be stressed. Yeah, no, I get it.
Frugality wins out on that half. But what do you do? What do you do to manage your stress? Drink wine.
I drink wine anyway. Excuse me. I am typically the person that I don't necessarily process stress very correctly. So I'm usually over the edge before I'm whoa, why does my stomach hurt? Why do I have this cramp in my shoulder? Because I typically operate at a high stress level that I like years working in restaurants and things. I like to be stressed.
Okay.
In a good stress strength. So when it gets bad, it usually takes me a long time to realize that, I'm not sleeping or, again, I have a raging stomach ache for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it gets to that point, then it's usually, like you said, some downtime. Definitely in the evenings, I like to zone out, lose myself in a TV show. And as much as when things get really stressful, a lot of times a workout regimen or yoga or stuff goes on a shelf. That's when I have to be all right, no, I don't have time for it. But as soon as I go and do something, I'm oh, yeah, I feel better. Annoying.
Right? Sometimes you talk yourself out of things that it's the bad angel on the shoulder. I know that this would be good for me, and yet I am not doing the thing that is good for me because stress eating is delicious, and you got to kind of...
Yeah, because staying up till 2 a.m. watching Netflix because it won't be on again tomorrow is important.
Because I need this.
I have to watch it right now.
I feel basically we're admitting that we don't have great stress coping mechanisms.
I don't, but
so
still
at To Wit Podcast, let us know if there's anything healthier we could or should be doing. No judgment zone though, so don't judge me.
Non-judgment zone. All right, I'm going to move right into it because our guest is freaking awesome. And this episode is not all about us.
Come on.
Okay, so Missy Longshore. She is not only awesome, she has helped me before. She's a huge player in the community, especially in the nonprofit sector. She's 4 times certified, brand new MVP.
Mm-hmm.
She leads the admin hour. She's a business owner, a nonprofit leader. She is a social media guru. And she's always giving back and helping and teaching. And I'm super excited to bring her on. So let's not waste any time.
Hi, Missy. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to To It.
Thank you. Can I just say what I've always wanted to say, which is long-time listener, first-time caller?
I love that phrase so much.
Yes, you can.
I've always wanted to say it, always.
Although I feel like that's such a lost art now. Like, I wonder if the millennials would even get like why that's.
I know, that's true.
Funny.
They're like,
Yeah.
And even me, like, I'm not saying like even I didn't like call in a radio show, but I guess I could have.
Oh, I did.
I'm just impatient. Did you try to win concert tickets?
Yes.
Or request
And
songs? I did do that.
I did request songs. I try to win concert tickets, and then occasionally one of the local stations would like have a topic and your best story could win. So a couple times I was on with some ridiculous stories that I shared.
Did you win anything?
I did not on that one, but I did get a call from a friend that was like, "Were you just on the radio?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, I was." Broadcasting school money going to good work.
there you go.
Well, I'm so happy that you had a chance to live your dream.
Yeah, for a moment.
Tell us a little bit about your story. How did you become so wonderful?
Oh, stop.
No, it's true.
Well, I mean, like many others, in the Salesforce community, I discovered Salesforce totally by accident / I actively did not want to. I was working in the nonprofit sector, which I have done my entire professional life. And I was working at an education reform nonprofit, and my job was special projects manager. And their implementation of Salesforce had gone horribly wrong. It was way over budget. And they said, hey, we need someone to take over the Salesforce implementation and get it back on track, make it more affordable, et cetera, et cetera. Could that be you? And I was like, no, please, no, thank you. And then, after I put them off for like 3 or 4 months, the answer couldn't be no anymore. I had never managed an IT project, et cetera, et cetera. And I knew that people were really unhappy. So of course I didn't want this project. And so then I had to take it on. I took it on and I loved it. I went to my first Dreamforce in 2009. I'm local in the San Francisco Bay Area. It was the Black Crows.
Ooh, okay.
Nice
I didn't go because I'm, a dork, but I did pick up a free T-shirt the next day that I actually just wore yesterday, I think, or the day before.
Well, in all fairness, it was your first Dreamforce, and they're really flipping overwhelming.
Yo, totally. And the best thing was that next year I brought like 2 colleagues with me, and I was like, oh, you don't need to pre-register for anything. You just walk in wherever you want. Like, it's no big deal. Like, because they didn't even scan badges the first year, right? I was like, I felt so bad. I was like, oh God, yeah.
I mean, you should have. Yeah.
It's changed a lot. I was just talking to somebody about this recently, is why I asked about the bands, because that was like, it was so funny to hear someone else ask me that. Like, oh, but what band year was it when you were there?
Mm-hmm.
And
I do log the time, though, when I'm trying to remember what year. It's easier to remember the band because,
it totally is.
Especially if you stay in the same place.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm
So
lucky
how was
because
it?
it's local. I get to sleep in my own bed, so
Oh, well, that is lovely. A little
very
less stress.
grateful for that.
How
Yeah.
was the environment then for nonprofit? So I only came into the environment in 2013. So I'm only familiar recently with nonprofit. So what did that look like then?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, so what had happened at that organization was we had done an implementation by a huge consulting partner that will not be named, that did not have any specialization working with nonprofits. And so they were used to doing, huge implementation. And it just didn't make sense for us to have like a 6-person project team for our 20-person staff, right? Like it was, it was not that huge of a data migration. It was not that complicated of a build, but like there was no nonprofit success pack. There was no like Power of Us hub where you could go in and ask other nonprofits how they're doing, what they're doing. So like I was on a client call right before recording this, and I was showing my clients this new functionality that nonprofits have that just comes out of the box in terms of updating addresses, and how when you go in and you update an address on what's called a household in nonprofits. So like, Melinda, if we were married, which, we would be in another life, I'm sure. Actually,
obviously.
It would be Christy and I, because Christy, in listening to the podcast, we have so much in common. It's insane. So,
we could be a throuple. Don't limit yourself.
So let's just pretend we're a household and we have an address and we put it on the household record, which is an account for nonprofits. And then, we all moved to Colorado. And so we need to update it. So it updates it not only on the household account record, but also on Christy's contact record, on Melinda's contact record, and Missy's contact record automatically. And so I was showing this to my client in real time, and I was like, you guys don't know how amazing this is. Like, I would have had to build all this stuff. You would have had to pay me all this money. And they were like, and I was like, I'm expecting a bigger reaction out of you. And they were like, yay. Well, we didn't see it before, right. So we don't even know. And I was like, exactly. So just the fact that Salesforce really continues to invest in nonprofits and make nonprofits' lives easier is really great, and really great to see. And honestly, I think a large part of me has blocked out those early days when it was really complicated and confusing. But
I was talking to somebody the other day about transitioning to Lightning, and I remember when we were transitioning to the current interface.
That's what I was going to say. That was a big deal. I did that at that job.
I feel like that makes us so like grand. Like I remember cassette tapes, but
yeah.
But what I think the difference is, Melinda's totally laughing at me. I like it. What I think the difference is I think Lightning is more than just a UI change. So much more. And I think last time it really was pretty much a UI change with Chatter, right? And like, so I don't think it was as much of a jolt. Like there wasn't,
right?
And that's kind of what we were talking about. Like this is really a re-implementation. And technically, completely. I guess I could just like take my page layout, put it in Lightning, like put the related lists in a tab next to the details, and not like use the side panels and not use like hardly anything, and sort of like just make it a UI change. But then that like defeats the purpose of Lightning a little. I guess that could be an interesting like first step, but then I don't know. So, but then like the whole reason, the impetus for me to want to move is I want path, and I want the utility bar, and I want Kanban, which means I need to create a bunch of chatter actions. And then, I also have the unique problem that our inside sales team works mostly in Map Anything. So yes, I can move. You can use that in Lightning, of course, but the experience is going to be quite similar, just with kind of a different frame. So there's not really the urgency there. But, so I haven't really had a clamoring to do it from that team. So it's interesting to be like, I remember when we did this before, but it was really different.
Totally. And I would say it's the same thing for nonprofits, in that my general experience with nonprofits is that they're not looking for like the newest, latest, greatest thing, right? They're looking to invest, all the dollars that people donate, or sometimes in the case of like schools and other, educational organizations that I work with that come from the public sector, really wisely. And so that means that they're not looking for, bells and whistles, and Kanban is like nice. And I think it's totally awesome, but it's not the reason for them to move, right? Because they're so excited that they have something that's functioning, that's not spreadsheets. So Lightning has been a tougher sell with the nonprofit crowd. And so, my focus on that in my business is what's not the like enticing people with carrots, but it's more like, are there sticks coming that people need to be aware of or afraid of? Like, that's kind of how a lot of nonprofits operate when it comes to technology. Like, is my laptop going to break and I need to replace it, right? Like, how can we extend the life of XYZ? Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and like, just so what you were saying before, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I can see like the slow evolution of new people. If that's all they're seeing, especially at the Dreamforce and all the, the push that they're doing, if that's what you see and that's what gets you to buy, then that's a whole different story.
Yes.
But for existing customer, and if you are a smaller company, there's less rollout, less lift, et cetera, et cetera. But like you say, but then it also may not be super tech savvy users, even if it's only 5 of them. If the fact that they moved from a spreadsheet to Salesforce is already a big leap, then why force them to leap even farther when they're quote unquote fine, so.
Yeah. Missy, do you find that new implementations though are easier with Lightning, or do you just stick with Classic?
Yes. No, I was just going to say, Melinda, that I totally have one foot in Classic with existing clients and then one foot in Lightning with new clients. And it's really, I feel like I'm schizophrenic because I'm going back and forth, and then I don't know about you all, but I feel like I'm cheating with my new clients who are in Lightning, right? Because they get Lightning out of the box. But then when I go into setup and I'm doing something and I'm like, I know this will be 10 times faster if I switch over to Classic. I'm like, is that cheating? I don't know. So like, can you tell me, because I work by myself, right? So I'm like looking over my shoulder and I'm like,
Christy and I just talked about this on the the admin
it's
podcast.
It's a slippery slope though if we're your moral bar. Or like, just saying. But
I mean, obviously, if it's not in Lightning, you got to go to Classic. But if I will be the first to admit, if I'm on a time crunch or I'm frustrated, I just go to Classic because I just want to get it done. But I don't know. Maybe this is the right thing, but like I feel like do it.
Right. As much as we begrudge our users of like this "who moved my cheese" mentality, like I've been in the standard setup. Well, they changed the setup menu a few times, but like I've been in this for almost 10 years. So like
exactly,
it's a bigger piece of cheese for me too, So it's one thing, like we went through all of our implementation step documents and added Lightning because sometimes it's just learning the nomenclature is different. You're so used to, I go to quick find and the setup menu, boop, boop, boop. Like I don't even know where things are. I just do it. But then there's legitimate, like certain things that aren't even in the Classic setup menu. So there's, so I don't think that's cheating, especially if you're billing people hourly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing.
But also, I think you are doing what you can to be probably more Lightning forward than a lot of admins like me that are in one org, right? So you do have a lot more Lightning experience and keep building that. So it's not like you are going to try and do that forever or using that as an excuse to not learn. It's just like in the moment, like Melinda said, kind of like, I need to get this done by this time. Like, and I know where it is and how to do it. And
I want to kind of roll with that to the 2 questions that I'm very eager to learn about is, when did you decide to start your own business? When was that marker from you to make the huge leap from admin to business owner, as well as the social media aspect that you have really, really honed in? The video on CRM Summit, your website, I've hired you before to help to guide me on, am I going to do a blog or a podcast? So I know that it's probably not a step, but if you could like give people a little idea of how you got there.
Yeah. Well, like many, superhero origin stories. No, I'm just kidding. Like many, women
got
in
bit
the
by a
real
spider.
world. Yeah, exactly. Like many women in the real world, it's, very humble beginnings. And, this is a wit podcast, so I cannot tell a lie. I had worked in 2 jobs where I was doing Salesforce. So the first one where I fell in love with Salesforce, they wanted me to move to LA, and I did not want to move to LA because I love the San Francisco Bay Area. And also they hired a person who was more of a developer who actually I still am in regular contact with. He's fantastic. And he's great. But so I had less Salesforce as part of my job. And so I got another opportunity in San Francisco that did not require me to move to LA, where I could do Salesforce, as like 80% of my job. So I moved there. And then after, like a year or so, I was laid off.
Ooh.
And I was talking to my friend, Pierre, with Sputnik Moment in Arizona, who's amazing. He's great. And he said, he told me how he got started as a Salesforce consultant. And I won't say more about his story because he can tell you, but I will say for my story, I did not want to get another job because full-time regular job because, as you may know, or as you may be able to guess, with nonprofits and foundations, being a Salesforce administrator is rarely a full-time job, right? And so in the work that I had been doing for the past year and a half before that, different organizations had mentioned to me hey, we wish we had a Missy, we don't need someone full-time, and so the question was what am I going to do for the other 50% of my time? Or is my job or career going to be sustainable if I keep doing this, full-time at organizations who only have 20 staff? And I just realized it wasn't going to be sustainable because they don't need someone full-time. They need someone during the implementation, but then after that. So, my prior employer hired me back for a gig. Someone who had also been laid off went to another foundation and hired me back right away for, different gigs. And then I was like, hey, maybe I should put some effort into this. So that was early 2012. So I'm in my 6th year of business. I can't believe it. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Flown by. So I, picked a business name, I asked some friends for advice, and it just kept going. It did really help that I had gone to business school. I graduated in 2005, so several years before I went independent. I had in the back of my mind planned to go independent, but I thought it was going to be at least another 10 years. I was like, I need more experience, whatever. So it was sooner than I anticipated, but life happens. And I thought this would ultimately be a little bit more stable because I wasn't going to fire myself anytime soon. So
I am a terrible boss.
Really well. And the social media and blogs and stuff like that really also came from needing help. I'm just a one-woman show over here, and I continuously need to reach out to people for help. So that's where a lot of that comes from.
I kind of latched on to the idea of not burning bridges. I think it's interesting. I also have left a job in my case, to move to Charlotte from Boston, where you were for college, for some of it at least. And I was able to help. I knew the software. I was able to do a part-time job here and do consulting for people that, like you say, just needed a certain thing done that I could do, and I was able to help. And so if I had been like deuces when I left, then how that opportunity, you never know, right? You never know where you're going to end up. And so leaving things, I just had a previous employer reach out to me and ask if I wanted to come back, and so, maybe those opportunities make sense at certain points, and how, like you say, you're not really sure what's going to happen, but I think it's great to have that support from a starting perspective as well, to know that, okay, if I do jump into this, like, people obviously want something like this, and I've seen that. So I think you've been really successful with it for 6 years.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's not like it hasn't been hard. If you've ever heard the term feast or famine in, independent consulting, that is definitely true. It happens. You go through cycles and phases, but I'm highly, highly motivated. And I also want to say that, I also had personal reasons for wanting to do it. I have some health issues. I get migraines. I have a repetitive stress injury in my, arms that make typing at a computer for 8 hours sustained at a day, at a desk, chained to a desk, really difficult. So if I'm able to stand up, I'm working at my standing desk right now, which is a great business write-off and stuff like that. That really works well for me, and that keeps me really hungry to keep it going. And yeah, Christy, absolutely, those relationships are critical, because I couldn't do it without, referrals and stuff like that. But I've heard a lot of people ask me about like sales and how do you do like the sales part. And it's, first of all, I love doing this because I get to totally be myself. I get to bring my whole self to work, whereas I felt like before I didn't, although I was pretty close. But now, since I'm ultimately the person I answer to, right? I can do that. And then, I can take the time I need to stretch and take care of my body and do whatever, which is hugely motivating for me.
How beautiful is it that we get options like that in the environment and the ecosystem that we work in?
Yeah.
The availability, not all of us have it. Yes, some of us are more chained to a desk, some aren't. But the fact that if for some reason, like you said, lifestyle, health reasons, that you said to yourself, F it, I can't do this. I want to stay in this, but I want to do my own thing. You 100% could just be your own consultant or be a remote admin or virtual admin. Like there are so many options and still work within your passion. That's, to me, I'm like, I give verklempt. Like that's so amazing to me that you can really design your life still. I've never had anything like that. That's until now. So I think it's awesome.
Every day I wake up and I'm so grateful. And I have to say, another motivation was that, in my space working with nonprofits in Salesforce, there aren't a lot of female-led firms. And even though it's never been my goal to have like 18 employees or whatever, because, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, it's really tough just to, support myself. And I don't want to be responsible for someone else feeding their family. Like that would be so stressful for me. It is really motivating to me to know that like I'm the head of my, quote unquote firm, so that was also like totally motivating to me because I didn't see that a lot in my space.
So for the CRM Summit, I might be a little confused. Is it virtual? That's okay. Is there a date? Because I really liked the way, but I saw register for free webinars, but can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
You could have just been like, so tell me more about the CRM Summit. Instead of
you went ahead.
Trying to answer your own question, but I don't have the answer.
I was like,
that's why we have a guest.
Yeah. We're all finding out together, So the Nonprofit CRM Summit is something that I did and may do again, but it's also accessible virtually anytime. You can go to nonprofitcrmsummit.com and check it out. I highly recommend it. There's a free workshop with Mike Gerholt actually on being an awesome admin and how Salesforce admins are the next leaders, which I think is a really interesting conversation. But I realized that not every nonprofit can travel to Dreamforce, right? And there's so much great content there, but not everyone can take advantage of it. And ultimately, I mean, let's be honest, it's selected by Salesforce, right? For certain marketing and other reasons, right? So it's not necessarily curated. It's curated for certain specific reasons, which is totally fine. It's a corporate conference. what have you. But I've seen the content change a lot over time and realized that it has a little bit more of a marketing focus these days. So I was like, well, not everyone can travel. Let me do an online conference. I figured out how to do that. I won a scholarship to this course to learn how to do that.
That's awesome.
It was a ton of work. It basically took me 2 months working like an additional full-time job last summer to do it. I had 24 speakers, and it's really good, really high quality content. And so now I'm continuing to produce virtual learning content because, again, I want nonprofits to be able to learn Salesforce, really do great stuff. And so people can go on and they can purchase it. So it was free while it was live in 2016 and for several days after. And then afterwards they could purchase it. So as opposed to like the Dream-In conferences where you pay a little bit upfront to attend because you have to cover the, hotel costs and stuff like that. I was like, I'll make it free upfront. And then if people want lifetime access to the recordings, they can pay for it. So
I like that setup.
Yeah, I liked it too, because again, with nonprofits, I wanted people to be able to access it. So really got a huge positive response. Over 600 people attended. People are really asking, to do it again. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it in 2017, honestly, because it was like 2 months of full-time work. Whether or not I'll be able to turn it into like an online, nonprofit Dream-In or something, I don't know. The thought has crossed my mind. If people want to reach out and talk about it, I'm happy to talk about it.
At Missy Longshore.
Exactly, at Missy Longshore on Twitter or Power of Us Hub, Success Community. But I did think that no travel required was pretty important for nonprofits because, nonprofits don't have professional development budgets. So now what I do is I do hashtag admin hour for free every Thursday, the first and third Thursday of every month at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, where we focus on like beginner to intermediate admin skills, really like interactive. We make it really fun. And it's a great time. People should come check it out at longshoreconsulting.com and join us and suggest topics and maybe even be a host as well, because we'd love to have more women co-host with me and, teach others Salesforce.
I've been on. It's been helpful.
Pretty sure that was my super fave at the beginning of the year. Would you say that the content is helpful for non-profit people?
Yes.
That's a
Thank
double
you,
negative.
Christy. It is geared towards everyone. Yep. I started doing admin hour because I realized that there wasn't tons on Twitter and there wasn't tons that was designed to be interactive. Like there were a lot of webinars, but there weren't a lot of places where you could ask a question in real time and get an answer and, a screen share, and you could follow along live in your organization and accomplish something in that hour, right? So I was seeing a lot of things where you could do something, you could learn something, but then like, when are you going to have time to go back and implement it, right? So instead, like, let's do this hour and let's implement it at the same time so that you can, not waste your time and get on with your day.
That is a wonderful moving forward effort. In my brain and not out of my mouth, I was asking, if I'm not a nonprofit person, should I still want to pay for the sessions from the summit?
For the summit, for the nonprofit CRM summit. Yeah, I think you should look at them. Some of my favorites were like how to create an infographic is really great. I would go back and check out the list. There are also a couple that are really good on like just how to evaluate software. So if you're looking at something from the App Exchange and stuff like that,
Ooh, cool.
that I found really helpful. So yeah, I think they're great. Or just start with the free Mike Gerholt one, which I think is great because he really talks about how you need to be a leader in your organization. And honestly, he really changed my mind because one of the things he talks about in there is how like with reports and dashboards, you need to proactively make recommendations on how to analyze the data in your organization. And I'll admit, I was afraid of that for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to like we've talked before about those skills of an admin, of kind of that BA hat, and that's really kind of gets into that, right? Instead of like there's a large part of admin, and and I think that that's a good thing. I'm not being pejorative about it, but there's a lot of it that is the doer, right? And some of it is planning to be the doer, which is another skill, but a lot of it is like, build me this field, build this process, build this thing. And so I think proactively I don't think about sales metrics and like what kind of things people might care about, maybe, you know, so that is kind of a different skill set. And I think something that you assume people will know what they want to know. Yeah. And then we'll ask you to build it.
Yes. Whereas, and the reality is they have no idea.
Well, or that, you know, they're not any better about knowing the correlation of something to something else than you are, but maybe together you are. You know, I had a great situation today where I was thinking about something one way, trying to solve something for someone's client, and then someone else said something and I'm like, oh, you could do it this other way. You're totally right. You know, so, you know, having one more brain in that pot that's familiar with the data can be really helpful. Even if you're just initiating the conversation, even if you're not comfortable just building something, right? If you're, you know, kind of putting the request out there to get people thinking, then that can be helpful too.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you probably don't have time in 2017 for a new summit. What kind of goals do you have for 2017 for yourself? Like, how do you kind of keep yourself motivated? Like you say, you work from home. Sometimes you only have yourself to argue with. Yeah.
So of course, you know, serving my clients really well is always number one. But I also, you know, part of the reason why I work for myself and I love working for myself, and that people should think about if they're listening to this and they're thinking about working for themselves, is like, how driven are you to kind of like make up your own path and your own tasks, right? So I personally love constantly learning, you know, like I love, you know, the Salesforce admins, you know, webinars. I love doing admin hour because I get to learn new stuff and prepare for it and then present it to someone else, which is a great way to reinforce my learning. You know, I took the Girl Develop It series on JavaScript a couple summers ago to like get me into coding, which I totally recommend. I also did the Rad Women, which I know, Melinda, you're going through now. It was very hard for me. I'm not going to lie.
Very hard for me.
Very challenging. So I like challenging myself. I think I'm going to continue to really work with Lightning because I know that I need to move a lot of organizations along in terms of their usage of it. And I'm also challenging myself to diversify my revenue streams and try and do more things like coaching and produce. So my goal this year is to do a paid product once every single month. So like last month, I did it on the very last day of February, and I'm having this thing called nonprofit admin magic coaching crew, where like, you know, people get access to like 15 learning modules that I created. And then they also get like 3 live interactive sessions. So I'll probably do some stuff around Lightning and stuff like that. But again, I want to continue to make Salesforce accessible to nonprofits in a variety of different ways, because, you know, a totally bespoke consulting engagement that costs, you know, my rate per hour does not work for everyone. So I want to just kind of throw it against the wall and see what works. And that's really scary as a woman who likes things that are reliable. So that's my big challenge this year. And the first thing I did was I created my Salesforce planner for 2017, and no one bought it, but I sent it out to my email list for free first. And that's totally fine. A lot of people still had a great reaction to it. And if you were on my email list, you got it for free. And now it's a prize as part of the nonprofits who Salesforce survey, which I'm doing again this year, was really successful last year. So people should definitely go to my website and fill out the nonprofits who Salesforce survey, which is a great independent of Salesforce way for people to find out, do nonprofits like Pardot? Do nonprofits like the Power of Us Hub? Do nonprofits like Lightning? And then that'll shape what I do for the rest of the year as well.
How do you do this all without a personal assistant? There's so much. You're creating content, you're doing summits, you're doing surveys. Like, I just wouldn't even know how. Like, that's amazing. How do you do all that?
Yeah, it's a little nuts. And, at the end of the day, for better or worse, I'm always like, I need to, stay on top of it and do it. But again, like, not having, I'm really motivated not to get a job. Like, it sounds terrible, but like, I'm so motivated. Like, I love working from home. I love staying connected to the Salesforce community. I love working for social change. And so, it sounds weird, but like, it's like, who would ever say like, oh, I love not having retirement benefits. I love not having, paid vacation. I love not having sick days. Like, yeah, of course, like every single day that I'm sick, I'm like, oh, I wish I could take a freaking paid sick day. Like, that sounds so luxurious to me. But the reality is for some reason, I like it. Again, just always learning new stuff and meeting people like you in the community. It's really, really interesting, and always getting new projects and helping new organizations that are just doing fantastic work.
Well, and I think it's interesting because you've mentioned learning a whole lot, but what I'm hearing is teaching. So I guess I'm curious, like, has that always been, were you like the kindergartner on the playground, like teaching people how to play, like...
How did you know?
What was that? Tetherball? Do you remember tetherball?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I was way too dorky to play tetherball. Let me be clear. Like, tetherball was for the like super cool kids at my elementary school. And I was not cool. Melinda, you were probably really cool, but
I don't even remember.
Sure, that's what popular kids say. Just kidding.
If by cool you mean being in AP classes, then yeah.
Yes. So both my parents were teachers. And so I think I knew, growing up that I would have some sort of role. And it's funny because I like when I would do presentations and stuff in business school, like people were like, oh, you're a good presenter. And like, I just really love it. Like, I'm totally comfortable being on camera, which I will point out, I'm a super introvert. So like, if you meet me at Dreamforce and unless I'm speaking, like, I will be extremely nervous. Like, I really enjoy staring at the floor. Like, I am very, very nervous.
You have a stage persona.
Yeah.
That's your comfort level. That's awesome.
I did speech and debate in high school. Like, I'm a trained public speaker is what I say. And again, with both my parents being educators, like, and I'm so passionate that nonprofits can do this for themselves, especially with where the product is at now. It's just really fun and interesting finding that sweet spot. And I don't know where it is. I want to be clear between hand-holding and, getting people to do it themselves.
So if somebody like me or Christy or someone that wants to do nonprofit on the side, or that, there's a lot of those websites where you can help pro bono. How would you suggest people get involved? I have a nonprofit that I work with still in California, and I'm helping them set up their .org, but I'm lost. Like, yes, the objects are the objects, but they don't connect the same. They don't behave the same. Yes. And I am not equipped to give her good advice. So I need a cause. We talked about this on the last podcast. I feel causeless out here. And if a cause means, let me tell you about my passion, then I'm going to tell you about .org, and then I fall. after that? Like, how can people get involved if they want to, but they're scared about .org?
Well, first of all, I would say thank you for your honesty, because the most important thing is that you are honest and upfront about your skills, your background, your knowledge, and your passion. And I mean that really seriously, because there are way too many people, and I'm not going to say what group of people it is, but let's just say there's none of them on this conversation right now.
Ew.
There's way too many people who come into a nonprofit, charitable organization and say, well, I know, Salesforce, or I know tech, so I can tell you what to do, right? You need to come from a place of listening. So much of what my role is as a technology translator. And I could not do what I do if I hadn't been working with nonprofits for so I did the math last summer because I went back to Philadelphia where I did my first nonprofit internship, and it had been 20 years since I started. So
wow.
It's kind of offensive to me when someone comes in and says, oh, hey, how not that you're saying this, but how can I get started? And I'm like, well, I've been working in this field for 20 years, right? It's kind of like someone going into like mergers and acquisitions and being like, hey, I'm here to help, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, why don't you learn something about M&As first, So I think I would say just be honest and upfront, and use the documentation, right? So the Nonprofit Success Pack now has fantastic documentation, webinars, get into the Power of Us Hub. Do not be afraid to ask questions. That is like my number one rule of thumb. I was a little bit hesitant for the first 6 months when I started in 2012 to ask questions in the Power of Us Hub because I did not want to look stupid. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do this unless I can. And anyone who knows me knows that I just put it out there. And it's crazy how many people come up to me at conferences and they're like, oh, I see that you're really active in the hub. And I'm like, that's because I'm asking a question like every 6 minutes that I don't know the answer to. I try and help too, but
I will say, at least take 3 seconds of Google foo before you ask a question.
Thank you.
I'm not saying don't ask things by any
true.
stretch, but there's findsf.info.
Yes.
There's the other one I can't think of the name of right now. That's curated Google Salesforce searching, or put the word Salesforce in your thing and make an attempt. But
no, it's true. My goal is to
searchtheforce.com. Sorry, is the thing.
Oh, great. No, I actually didn't know about either of those. That's fantastic.
Ooh, yeah. So findsf.info is a little older. It searches blogs. It searches official docs, and it has tabs.
Search blogs.
And so I don't know what curates it. Thank you to whoever does, but I don't know if it picks up all blogs, if it's basically doing a Google search. I have no idea, but it sorts into tabs. Search the Force is somebody curating basically a custom Google search that already has the Salesforce implication. So it's just like a standard Google search, except you don't have to put the word Salesforce or Salesforce-y sounding words in your search. So I was just talking to my coworker about how much adminning is Googling things.
Oh my gosh, so much.
And there's a website, right? LMG.
Yes. Yes.
Let me Google that for you.
Let me Google that for you. Yes. Best site.
We need a Salesforce version.
The first time, I'm just going to say it, Guillermo Pedroni. You know who you are. I don't know what I asked him at Intelligence. He literally sent me that, let me Google this for you. And I was like, oh, how dare you, sir? Yeah. And then I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
It was, that is, yes, it is a thing.
No, that's true. And for me, the game I play with myself is trying to stump people. So I feel pretty good because I know who my top, techie friends are in the hub. And I'm like, okay, if I can get Steve Moe to spin the wheels a little bit, I'm in a good place. And then for the nonprofit, to help nonprofits, I would say if you're not like Melinda, but if you're just starting fresh, I would say go through an organization like Taproot or another one that has a process for working with nonprofits. Again, at the time that I had already been working with nonprofits for, let's say, 10 or 12 years, I did a Salesforce project with Taproot. And it was great because I learned their project management style. I did not know the difference between Agile and Waterfall at that point, and I learned, and it was great. So I just always have the attitude that I have something I can learn.
It's a good attitude to have. I love that you're a teacher. I definitely have a passion for training and teaching as well. I didn't know I did until a handful of jobs ago that I was teaching people how to run their business or I work for a coffee and smoothie company. So I help them implement their business and then teach the staff how to train or how to make the smoothies or cappuccinos. And I was like, wow, I kind of like this. It's a different reward when you can share what you know. It's almost like, a nonprofit that gives back. You have an opportunity to be like, yeah, hey, I learned this. Here, have this. I have this, now you have this. They'll pay it forward kind of situation.
And what I think is, what I've noticed about what you've been saying as well is, I think Melinda talked about, do I do a blog, do I do a podcast? And you had mentioned that you kind of looked at what there was, right? And found a niche or found something that, there was a lot of webinars, but not as much interactive. So how can I do that? And does that play to my skills? And I'm sure it's also helpful, right? Because you are at home by yourself. So unless you're, of course, traveling to clients and things. So talking to other people is a helpful thing too. So finding a way that, and you have a specific kind of nonprofit focus, although of course, like we've said, the skills apply to other areas as well. But, how can you kind of create a thing, not that it's the only thing, but what do you do better than anyone else? Or who are you and how can you give that to people? And I think when you're talking about contributions and balancing that community with Twitter, with blah, 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 life. Oh yeah. And I'm married. I have to manage that too, so how all that plays together. And I think finding seeing what's out there and finding the right thing helps you be successful, but also helps keep you motivated and happy to do it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't end up feeling like more work. Right? I mean, the podcast is fun, hopefully. I know sometimes it's hard to schedule and the logistics get annoying sometimes, but I'm still having a good time. Hopefully everyone's having a good time.
Right now, Two Wit is coming to you coast to coast with a stop in the middle of Denver. We're from San Francisco to Charlotte. You like that?
3 time zones.
Super impressive.
I like that we've gone from the Sunday voice to the Melinda on the voicemail voice.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we could talk forever because I love your information and your education. I'm very inspired by you at all times. But
stop. Thank you. I'm inspired by you too.
Go Salesforce Wit. And you know what's coming next.
I know. I'm so nervous.
The infamous question. Tell us your biggest Salesforce screw up.
Well, I have to say, I'm hoping I can get a prize for the biggest screw up because I think it's really bad. So I will just caveat and say it was several years ago and it will never happen again. And I know you're going to be confused and I've blocked out significant portions of it, but I was really kind of obsessing over this question because I knew it was coming. And then I was walking, I had a really lovely walk to a meeting several days ago. And there were puppies playing on the lawn and children running around or whatever. And I was thinking about it and I remembered and my stomach dropped. I thought I was going to throw up. It was bad. It was bad. And by the way, I think at the time I may have been listening to She Geeks Out, which is a really great podcast. I just want to put it out there.
Nice little shout out.
Yes, they've been talking about boobs and Quidditch recently, so I totally recommend it. Yes. So great topics. I think you would be fans of She Geeks Out. So, anyways, I managed to lose or be at least a felony accomplice in losing someone's entire Salesforce database in the mail. Yeah, I know.
No one else can see the look that we're giving you, but we're giving you a look. We both actually tilted our heads like puppies.
Yes.
Like, what?
Yes. What? So here's what happened. This was several years ago, and this is kind of the challenge of working with an organization that is like so highly secure, you can't actually do what you need to do, right? So I was working with a super highly secure organization that PS no longer uses Salesforce, but it's not because of this. It's because I found out later that they actually have a tendency of switching CRMs like every 1.5 to 2 years. Yeah. So they were kind of doomed from the start. But anyways, there was something around, I think it was like only I could do the backup with all the attachments, right? The weekly backup, as you should do, right? But the project person I was working with at this organization could not access Google Drive there was nowhere she could store it and access the zip file, like she just couldn't do it. And so I was like, okay, I will mail it to you. Now, she received it that first time on a flash drive. And then I was like, okay. And then she like stored it like, I don't know, on her desktop or something really scary like that. So
super secure, I'm sure.
Oh, totally secure. So then I was like, and I think I had to send it to her because they were so particular about me not having anything on my computer, like whatever. So then she called me and was like, okay, I need to send it back to you and we're going to do it again. And we're going to keep like going round and round. And I was like, okay. And she's like, how should I send it to you? And I was like, oh, just pop it in the mail. It'll be fine. So a couple of days later, I get an envelope, a regular business envelope with a little hole in the bottom.
Oh, sweet
where the USB stick had fallen out. And it was a nightmare. So she literally had taken it and put it in a plain white envelope and mailed it across the country.
Goodness.
And
is this the Pony Express? Like, what are you doing to me?
Wells Fargo will be there in 4 days.
Yeah. So basically what ensued was letters had to go out to every single person in the database saying your information may have been compromised, including myself, because I was a vendor, right? Like, we will offer you a free credit, check, like whatever. Like, it was horrible, like so bad. I had to go down to the little mail annex and be like, what happens when something falls out? Like, where is it? Can you forward it? Luckily, I listened to a lot of podcasts and knew that there's actually like a place for like lost mail items and stuff, but it wasn't at the one I was at. It was probably at the one at like Atlanta or whatever. So anyways, don't do that is the moral of the story.
Or at
do
least
not
get
put
one
your Salesforce database on a flash drive. Encrypt your data. Use encrypted fields. And just don't lose your Salesforce database in the mail.
And if you do, use one of those like flat flash drive things that has like, it's like a business card. It has the part that like flips out. If the only envelope you have is a regular mail envelope, there you go. Track it too. How about that?
My goodness.
That might win. Like, who's gonna top that?
Yeah.
I lost data in the mail. Well, you technically didn't lose it. She lost it.
Yeah, but
no, but this is the best. How do you lose cloud-based data in mail? This is brilliant. Brilliant.
Some of those backup files get real big, though. I could see like an external hard drive. I got nothing. And that also just makes me think right now, like, where is my external hard drive? Did I lose my own photo data? Like, well, I don't, there's nothing important on there probably because I haven't needed to find it until it just occurred to me right now.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, Missy, Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're so welcome. I feel like I'm in the presence of celebrities. It's really exciting.
Congratulations on MVP as well. That's really awesome.
Oh, thank you. It's very frightening to me, but exciting.
Lots of information.
That's really the goal, is to scare you as much as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I survived a year, so I'll just there's light at the end of the tunnel, guys. You're gonna be okay.
I'm impressed.
Well, hopefully we see you soon.
Yeah.
Are you attending any fun events where people can find you? Is there anything you want to... I mean, we've talked about what you're doing.
So that's the other thing about being a business owner is that it all depends, right? There's no one to send me to conferences and stuff. So I would really, really, really love to go to witness success. But the answer, of course, is it depends. So I basically read all the Dreamin' websites and drool over them because I'm like, I want to go. So yeah. So I have hopes and dreams, but I may just need to read everything on Twitter and attend virtually if possible. But
is there anything that you want to... I mean, we've talked about Admin Hour. You talked about your website. Is there anything else that you want to pimp out that you're doing that for all of our bajillions of listeners to know?
Oh, I love the listeners is what I will say. Just check out Admin Hour at longshoreconsulting.com and let's connect on Twitter or wherever else. I also have a blog. My goal is to do it weekly this year. And super fun.
Big goals.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Missy was a freaking joy. I'm super excited to have gotten to talk to her. I'm glad that we had some good nonprofit feedback and persona to give back in that sector.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the lion mascot is underappreciated, and I'm excited to learn more. And she didn't even go Success Pack one time. She went No, wait, Starter Pack. She didn't go Starter Pack one time. Yeah. She did it right every single time, which I think is wonderful. So I loved getting to know... I think it's so interesting how people are different, right? And she is thriving working from home and having her own business and managing her own time, not only like we were talking about, making time to learn, making time to serve lightning and non-lightning customers, and making time to teach and give back in a way that kind of filled not necessarily a hole, but she found a niche for the Admin Hour. And it's one of those things where we've talked about before about prioritizing things that aren't the immediate thing, right? So the one time I managed to attend Admin Hour, it was awesome. And I need to do more of that. So if you're listening to this, remember, you should make time to go to webinars. You should get out of your own way to schedule those things and not be like me and move the little reminder to do the thing every day because you don't get to do the thing.
Yeah, I love the amount that she gives back. I mean, she is so busy as it is, but continues to give back. And I like to really getting to know that she's an introvert. And, maybe if you meet her in public, she's a little more shy. Like she said, likes to look at the ground, because I've only known her really as a giver and a teacher. So in my world, she's super outgoing. And if you saw her on the street, she'd be like, "Hey, Melinda." And I had no idea. It's not like that at all.
Right. And that really is an interesting thought, because I think there's so many people who do give a lot on Twitter and give a lot online, right? Or even in person, like she said, presenting. You might see her as this person that's so comfortable presenting, but that's a practice skill, and that in a crowd, I think our habit is to be like, it's not her, it's me, or it's not you, it's me, right? Like, what is she doing? Why am I offended? Like, what did I do to her that she's not nice to me, or whatever people worry about? But maybe it's not all about you or me. That wasn't a judgment on you. That sounded real judgy.
Well, it's all about me.
On Wednesdays, we work.
Speaking of all about me, can I stop right before my super fave? I have two things I want to announce.
Oh, well.
Podcast listeners.
It's the Melinda Show.
Things. One is we are going to start a Twitter sort of segment. We often give shout outs on the podcast to many amazing, awesome, rocking people in the community. and we don't necessarily tag them in the show notes. So I'm going to start
Chagging people. It's called chat and tagging.
Exactly. Chagging. I'm going to start tagging them, both you and I will, in various Twitter communique, as well as the update for the release. Second is I joined the chatter group called Be Lit. What? Be Lit? Which is
it about wine?
Well, it should be. It is the Blue Wolf ladies in tech, and told them about our podcast today. So hopefully we get some new listeners. Like Missy said, me like, long-time listener, first-time caller, who knows?
Hello, Blue Wolfians.
Woohoo!
I don't know what else you're called.
Wolfettes. Wolfpackers? Welcome to the Wolfpack.
Belits. I don't know. Lit or wit?
It's Be-Lit.
I know, but which is your fave? Would you rather be a lady in tech or a woman in tech?
I don't know. Lit is fun. Be-Lit is just fun.
But
I like being wit, because we're too wit. Like,
what if we were too lit? What? Why am I so street this episode? What is happening to me?
It would be very different.
All right.
So anyway, that's what I want to put out there. We're going to give some shout outs because people are awesome. Don't forget to give a review on iTunes and welcome any Blue Wolfers that are now listening. And on to my first super fave about women empowerment. Kind of randomly happened. The first is I started reading Drop the Ball, Achieving More by Doing Less by Tiffany Dufu. Ooh. I heard about her on the Call Your Girlfriend podcast, that's next to us, of course. And it's a wonderful book. And it has tactical processes of how to still, do everything you want, be a family and career and all of the other things, as well as still not taking away from your own personal involvement. And she also has a YouTube channel called there's like Tiffany Epiphanies, and it has it's amazing. And they're just little 3-minute segments kind of about, again, hey, this is what frustrated me today and how I can delegate better. Or her first one was about, I can't remember the title of it, but how you in your head were like, God, why did they pick up the signals on doing X, Y, and Z? Well, because you never asked them to. So I will give you an update later, but I'm really loving Drop the Ball, and I'll tell you more soon.
Didn't you get my telepathic message about what I expected you to do that I didn't clearly outline?
Well, for you, I do.
My first super fave is somewhat biased. It's another podcast that David Giller runs, and I'm going to say it wrong probably. Is it Brainate or Brainiate? My brain does not know.
But I say Brainiate.
Okay, Brainiate. It was a great episode with Caleb Steen, who is one of my super favorite people. He is the loveliest Southern gentleman at Map Anything. He's the manager of our solution engineering team. And he went to Clemson, and he just has the loveliest way about him. And part of the reason I really love this podcast and I love what David is doing is I know even Missy talked about approaching how you approach packages on the App Exchange. And of course, I can talk about Map Anything if you need me to. But sometimes it's easier to learn about things when it's not in a pressured environment. And this episode was a great example of Caleb talking partially about himself, right? And how he has learned Salesforce and his experiences, but also about what Map Anything's about and some interesting use cases that might not be what you'd think of when you think of Map Anything. So it was a great way to get an impression of the product without it being super salesy, right? So you don't have to be on a sales, and that wasn't the point. I don't think it was very it's not convincing you to buy stuff. It's just getting exposure to things because we talk about with Missy too, I think is really important to know what's out there. So if you are a consultant or you are managing an org and you get someone saying like, I'm having trouble doing XYZ, then you can be like, oh, hey, I heard this thing about this product. Let's take a look at it, right? So just getting exposure to those things. So he's had some great guests, including friend of the show, Amy Opplinger, as well as this episode with Caleb. So give it a listen. Even in 1.5 time, I did it on just my ride to work today, and it was perfect. It was perfect timing. I loved it. So there you go.
Done.
Then come
I
back
like
here.
the brain.
Listen to us more. Just kidding.
I like his podcast. All right. So next up on my women empowerment tour. Okay. The book is called Gusty Girls by Caroline Paul.
It's not
heard
gutsy.
about it.
It's gusty, like wind.
Oh no, it's gutsy.
Ha ha ha!
I just can't spell.
You're so gutsy. But you can
Gutsy
read.
girls.
You can't spell,
Okay.
but you can read what you wrote.
Thank
So you're
goodness.
doing great, girl. You're doing great.
Heard from her on another podcast on the Tim Ferriss show, and he was talking about fear and enabling women not to be afraid. So that it led me to learning about her more online, and she had a TED Talk, which I'll link to in the show notes. But it's about girls not being afraid and how we can raise stronger women in our life. And instead of on the playground where you tell the boy, you know, go have fun, you tell girls, oh, be careful and, you know, don't fall down. So I'll link to the show notes. Excuse me. I'll link to the TED Talk, but she's very inspiring. She used to be a firefighter and used to be afraid. And she talks a lot about overcoming fear and how you can't necessarily overcome in a day or have a different relationship to fear, but you have a different relationship to bravery. And it's the micro bravery movements. And no, not one day you're going to wake up and be like, I overcome my fears of everything. But instead you wake up one day and say, okay, today I'm going to overcome my fear of talking to a stranger at Starbucks. Like it's the micro lessons.
Okay. I like that. And in a shout out to our new shout outs and to Southeast Dreamin', which by the time this comes out will be over, and we'll probably start planning the next one because that's what happens. I definitely want to make sure that we recognize the people that help make Southeast Dreamin' happen. I know it's easy. I call myself the head cat herder, right? And can be the face of it sometimes, but it is 100% not just me. And I want to give so much love to Chris Whitehead, Amber Boaz, Patrick Connolly, Stephanie First, Chris Zolo, Kate Vickery, Kelly Frommer helped with sponsors. It's just, Brian James is doing so much. It's great to have people who are so passionate, want to give in the way that they can. I mean, Amber and Pecan have been handling all the speakers. I haven't had to worry about that at all. It's just great. Chris has taken over the way that different people excel, right? He manages the website. I don't have to think about that. It's just great to have people help with the bits and pieces so that the whole thing can happen. People think it's flawless. People apparently think they can do one and do it in a month, right? Which you can't. So don't do that anyway, unless you hate yourself. But, or have no other job. But anyway, I'm sure we're recording this beforehand. We're releasing it afterhand. I'm going to just go ahead and say it was great. And I'm so thankful for those people. So I wanted to make sure that we're going to tag them up and love on them. And on to the next one, which I feel like we've got a little gap now. We had Tahoe, Snowforce, Punta Dreamin', me. And then I think we've got a month or two. And then we've got Texas. And then a little maybe break. And then we've got Chicago and double Chicago with Witness Success. And of course, the wonderful lucky people that got to go to London's Calling. There's going to be French Touch Dreamin'. There's going to be probably Ozfest.
Surfforce.
Ireland. Surfforce.
I know. I want that so badly.
I'm only thinking U.S. time. So there's so many. Allthedreamins.com, I believe, is where Kate has a blog about the wonderful things you can participate in with the community. So obviously, if you've listened to us, you know that we think community events are wonderful. You should go to them. And
all of them.
Hug all the committee members that make it happen for you.
So
and
true.
the sponsors that make it happen for you. So I have had a lovely time chatting with you, getting to know Missy, and I'm super excited for the next quarter.
I know.
By the time we listen to this, we're already in April. What's happening?
Ooh, and I love your face.
Hey, no one else can see our faces, but we can, and that's important. They can hear us. I love your melodious voice.
Ooh, thank you.
The wine is starting to talk now, so I'm going to go ahead and just say, stay witty.